Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today this video will be describing my thought process on how I built my Seina team for World of Carnage 2 clears, as well as going through a mental checklist and walking you through Pad X along with my dungeon notes that I actually have. So my wrists are still hurting me. They are quite frustrating, and I tried to minimize the typing I did, and thankfully some of this was already pre-made because I oftentimes will kind of make my own little mental checklists or like floor by floor notable mechanics on my own, and I decided to like just kind of zest it up and make it pretty so I can publish and share it. But the idea of this team is I found my current setup is incredibly stable and consistent for Shura 2 playthroughs, and I want to share my thought process behind how I came to this conclusion. So we're going to be walking through Pad X as well, and I'll explain how that works. But beforehand, let's just close the Pad X for now. So the general strategies for this dungeon is that if you want to stall on floors 1 through 8, you must have at least 2 spawns present, because if there's only a single spawn, they will buff themselves up, and you can tank this in rage hit, but it's so much higher compared to 2 individuals hitting you that it's much better to stall on 2 things. In addition to that, once you have transformed, you should be using one of your leaders every single turn because it makes stalling even easier. 1 fire combo, 1 water combo, 1 heart combo is 7 combos. Might do a tiny bit of damage to something, maybe not. But the point is you get your big damage reduction and you're at least healing a bit. Maybe you just break even, but the point is it's a nice way to stall. And whenever you do use one of your leaders, always make sure that they are the last person you use. If you use a board changer, use your leader last. If it's another orb changer like Grandis, use your leader last, because you want to make sure you have at least 3 water orbs. VDP, or a 3x3 box, pretty much kills any early dungeon spawn. Like the first many floors, a VDP will basically kill anything. So just keep that in the back of your mind. On the other hand, making a row with my setup does kill most things as well, and it is a mass attack, which is important because everything does have super resolve, and when they have super resolve, you need to kill them twice. So making a mass attack is beneficial because you mass attack once, everything's now pushed below their super resolve, then you could actually kill them, and ideally kill off a couple of them and leave 2 if you need to stall. So here is the team that I have decided upon for myself, and I highly encourage all my viewers to download PadDB. It's a wonderfully helpful companion app that basically lets you build teams without actually having to go into Pad itself, waste latents, waste resources, etc. You can plug it in, you can find the exact amount of health your team will have, you can see the skill boost, you can see the awakening breakdown, and this is showing myself post-transform. Pre-transform, I have 22 skill boosts, just so keep that in the back of your mind, which is the number I need to have to let Shiva's Inherit actually be ready on turn 1. But after I do transform, I have at least 3 rows, so a little bit of row damage. It's a efficient way to mass attack. Obviously lots of VDP. Have jammer, have poison resist, have a little bit of blind. It's not truly that necessary in all honesty. And I have a single L awakening. I have cloud, I have some team HPs, and my health is above 150,000, which is important because when we go to my checklist, you'll understand why. So when I look at a dungeon, I like to make 2 kinds of checklists, so to speak. I have things that you must bring, and great to have, but lower priority. So basically, I want to make sure I have every single thing checked off in the left-hand column first, and then I look on the right-hand side. This checklist is made on a team-by-team basis. Using a different team will have different requirements because Seina needs to make sure they have a certain amount of health if they want to tank the ogres. So the first thing you need to bring is a 10-turn bind clear, and ideally it comes with at least 5+ turns of awoken binds. Basically, there is a floor where you get preemptively awoken bound and then 10-turn bind on your leader. Very bad. You want to make sure you can counter that. If not, you die. You need to have an unable to match orb effect clear, and ideally it's 5+ turns because there is at least some spawns that can make 5 turns of unmatchable, and if they make light or if they make fire or water unmatchable, you die. You need to have a follow-up attack. The most common way I die is I forget things have resolve and I'm just used to auto follow-up attack. Make sure you have follow-up attack somewhere. You need damage reduction. You either need to tank the ogre's hit naturally, or you always have to be using a damage reduction against guilds or the final bosses below 50% health hit the first time. I'll go into that in a little bit more greater detail ahead, but if you have 150,000 health, it's great to have because now you don't have to tank the red ogre. You can just naturally do it. You don't need to have a shield or damage reduction. So Like I said, you need to have damage reduction, but ideally it's 150,000 health, so you don't have to deal with the red ogres on floor 5. You can just tank the one hit, but you need to have damage reduction for gills afterwards. You need a full board changer. You need to have it. You need to have an attack buff. You're not going to survive otherwise. You need a time extend buff. There are some horribly obnoxious time debuffs that you really need to overwrite. RCV debuff. There are some painful RCV debuffs as well. I personally just like having it. Poison Surge is, I feel, something that you must bring. It makes your runs much smoother. You must be able to transform floor 1. Well, that's kind of a given for most teams. You want to bring an L because if orbs are locked, you may not necessarily get to use your leader's active, and in turn you may not activate, which results in you dying. You also need to have a solution for floor 6 leader swap and patience, because this is only 13 floors. It doesn't take that long to play through, and in all honesty, going through it slow is the safest way to do it. Another common way to die outside of just mistakes is letting too many mechanics pile up. If there's, like, say, a various debuff here, and then the next floor is other debuffs, so on and so forth, if you just keep blasting your way through, because you definitely could, you're going to eventually get to a point where too many mechanics have stacked up, and you've probably got yourself into a truly awkward situation. For things that are great to have but lower priority, 150,000 health. I personally always try to get this, but you can definitely get by without it. You can use Shiva's shield to tank it, or Grandis when he transforms. It means you have to delay transforming Grandis until later, but it is a solution. Just make sure you do it and you don't forget. I find Cloud Resist is great to have. I've always had Cloud Resist naturally because of Fagin Rai's weapon, but it's not that many clouds. Tape Resist. I've never used Tape Resist, and I still can clear it. There are many ways to get around the tape, to be honest. It's at the top, so it's not too cumbersome. Color Absorb. Now, if you don't bring Color Absorb, there's a 20% chance you lose. Like, you're not going to wait 99 turns. You're going to quit and restart. Just simple way of the game. But it's only a 20% chance that happens because there's 2 spawns on that floor, and only one of them has Color Absorb, and it has 5 different things it can do. 2 of them are problematic, so 40% times 50%, 20% total. If you're looking for your very first clear, and you can't squeeze in Color Absorb in any way, just suffer, so to speak. Like, you'll suffer 20% of the time, but if it's allowing you to overcome everything else with much greater ease, it might be worth it in the interim if you're just gunning for a first-time clear. And now we're going to go look at Pad X alongside of it and break down the individual dungeon. So I have a clear video. We're not going to watch the clear video in this. You can watch them separately. I keep them separate because some people want to see the video of how I play through the dungeon. Other people might just want to hear the breakdown when they're building their team. So for Pad X, I have the link through my website here, and you should always use one Seina every single turn after using other board and orb changers. It just gives you a steady flow of orbs, lets you stall easier, more damage. It's just a good thing to do. So, on floor 1, with my team, I have 22 skill boosts before I transform, and that's important because Shiva has Shelling Ford inherited, which is a 4-turn delay, and together with Shiva's base active plus Shelling Ford, I have him ready in 22 turns, 22 skill boosts, enough SDRs that Shiva does not get delayed. I delay floor 1, and remember, I'm at 22. 4 turns of delay, I come into 26, plus the 1 turn they had to begin with. So basically, I will be able to transform and start smacking them before they could even touch me. That is tremendously important. And even though I did get bound with my Gillian because he doesn't have bind immunity, the row from Nay's Heart Orbs can clear it, and then by the time Gillian is unbound, he can possibly transform, because remember, your leaders transform at 25, Gillian, Grandis at 30. And also, you get skill delayed, then bound. So Gillian didn't actually get skill delayed. He gets skill delayed, resists it because of SDR, then gets bound. No problem. Shiva's delay makes me fire and hearts, make the row of hearts. I can unbind them earlier. It's not a big deal, to be honest. Only your leaders need to truly be bind immune. I guess maybe I should put that in the things you must bring. So, after we delay, and you have the 22 skill boost, you're going to be fine. So you can stall with Seina's active after you transform, and basically if you're able to kill the green one, you can dance and stall for a prolonged period of time until things are about to transform. And for myself, I don't transform Gillian or Grandis yet because I want to use them on floor 2, because on Pad X you can see that the green one hits for 420,000. Obviously that's a problem. You want to kill that first, and then everything else, easy peasy. Only 1 purple or 1 yellow spawns. It's not all of them. For floor 2, it's a bunch of bloblets, but the biggest danger is this Dragon Seed, and technically the bloblets can change orbs repeatedly. But the Dragon Seed is 2 billion defense. It's 1 billion effective defense against fire because you get 2 times damage, so much easier to overcome. but it forces you to target it. So you need to make sure you row and VDP it down. And the reason why I transform Gillian and Grandis now is because they give me 3 turns of massive damage reduction and 3 turns of 3 times attack buff. So it will make this floor much smoother, because it is possible that the little bloblets here, because you get 2 of them, will constantly take away your fire orbs and you're not able to make mass attacks. With Grandis's shield, you're not going to die. You can tank through things. You could even time it in such a way that the big flower, who hits for a comically high amount, will get shielded by Grandis, and obviously you don't have any problems there once that does occur. There is a large time debuff. You have enough movement time to overcome it. I don't think it should be an issue. Eventually I use Gillian's active skill post-transform to overwrite it. For floor 3, you don't want the red goblin to hit you, because that's 600,000, and that just kill it before it hits you. He does charge himself up on his very first attack. So it's possible he's a 1 to 3 timer when you enter the dungeon. And he'll charge himself up, and then he'll be 2 turns after that. Kill him before that, all you need to do. The green one, you shouldn't also let it hit you either. It's a big hit, 352,000. You should be able to kill the green one and the red one. You could possibly stall, you can dance things out. Those are the main notable mechanics. Again, the more you stall and wait out either the spinners or the dark skyfall, like the sticky blind skyfall, the easier it becomes later on. Just remember, if you're going to stall on something, try to get it down to 2 things, and ideally not the red goblin and the green goblin. But remember, you can abuse World of Carnage from the blue spawn, the yellow spawn, and the purple spawn. The green goblin and red goblin don't have the World of Carnage self buff, so even if they're by themselves, they don't actually deal more damage. Red one just hits hard to begin with. For floor 4, all the doublets, you only get 1 to spawn, have 1 billion defense. So the water one is a problem. But if you use Grandis's burst with a VDP, you can overcome anything. You hit damage cap with your leaders, no problem. So just keep that in the back of your mind. And every spawn on this floor has a fake resolve. Resolve is fake, which means it won't actually do anything. It doesn't have a 1% execute hit. So keep that in the back of your mind. On this floor here, you do get skill delayed a bit, and you must have your Gremmary's Inherit or your full bind clear and awoken bind clear ready for the next floor. It has to be ready as soon as you enter the next floor. So if you get skill delayed, you can dance on this floor a little bit. Another thing I oftentimes do is I kill the green one first, because the green one is the easiest to kill, and then there's less things that are hitting you. I kill the green one first, and the red one sometimes alongside of it. The blue one takes a bit more effort. The doublets obviously take much more effort. So if you have only the doublet plus the blue dragon, it's much easier to stall, and you can definitely charge up as needed. Remember, it's a fake resolve. If you make the follow-up attack, you just dodge an extra hit, but it's not like a giant enrage hit. For floor 5, you will enter the floor and you will be awoken bound for 1 turn preemptively. Remember, the lightning bolt symbol is preemptive bind, or preemptive something, and it's an awoken bind for 1 turn. And then you'll get 10 turns of binds on your leaders afterwards. So this is why you need to have the awoken bind clear plus the 10 turn plus bind clear. So Gremmary's Inherit for myself will clear all of that. And then I need to have either 150,000 health or use Grandis's Transform or use Shiva's Shield, because the Red Ogre hits for 600,000 damage. It's unavoidable. You could delay it, I guess, but it's not necessary. If you can tank it through health, do so. It only has 600,000 health divided by 2 because of Super Resolve, so very easy to kill. So make sure you break its Super Resolve turn 1, get hit, barely survive, kill it again, and then you can stall dance on the blue-green one until actives are ready. I like to make sure Gillian and Grandis are ready going into floors if I have the option to do so, and always kill the Red Ogre first. On floor 6, I have Shiva's Delay, which is ready for the leader swap. There is a preemptive leader swap, and even though my team can technically kill this floor without having to worry about which leader I am, because it just happens that all the subs can function as strong enough leaders to sweep this floor, I rather just delay for 2 reasons. Delaying is the safest. You can never die if you delay, and you have so many turns to make sure all your actives are ready, because you need to have Grandis and Gillian ready for the next floor. So dump your actives if necessary, and just obviously stall for them back up so they're ready for the next floor. Furthermore, basically just delay. There's not too much else to say. If you delay them, it's easier, but you have to dump Shiva's active anyways, because you need to make sure you have the shield later on the dungeon. You don't want the delay. So this is a good time to just dump the active anyways, so I found it was convenient for myself. On floor 7, there is a preemptive time debuff, a preemptive RCV debuff, and a preemptive attack debuff. Lots of debuffs going on. Not a good place to be if you're not prepared. So what I do is I do Grandis first, then Gillian. You might think, wow, why is he wasting this row he makes? The reason for that is you need to have at least 6 Jammer Orbs for Seina's active to make 3 water. And if you use Gillian first, then Grandis, you run the risk of too many Jam Orbs not existing, because Grandis will overwrite the Jammers at the bottom. But if you do Grandis first, then Gillian, and then Seina, you're going to have minimum 6 Fire Orbs, and then you're much more likely to have 6 Jammers present, which ensures you get the Water Orbs found. It can happen that you don't get enough Jammers and you die, and it's just truly awkward, but there are certain risks that you just have to take. It's a low chance of happening, so you might as well minimize it as much as possible. But basically, overwrite the debuffs and you're good to go. For floor 8, you must have Gremory's base active skill or someone equivalent. So you could use Usil, you could use Beach Planner or Christmas Tomato, something with the Awoken Bind Clear and unable to match Orb effect. Have that ready for floor 8's preemptive. And because my Gremory only has 2 SDRs and the Poison Surge, she's always going to be delayed because there is a 5-turn preemptive delay on this floor here. Where is it hiding? It is somewhere here. It is the Yellow Ninja. He will preemptively delay your skills by 5 turns. So Gremory, even if she overcharged for whatever reason, it'll be back to her base form, which is what you need, so you don't have to worry about juggling active skills in that sense. Make sure Gremory is ready. Smash through, relatively straightforward. And now we come to floor 9. So Grandis is needed for floor 10, so don't use Grandis on floor 9. So if you get Trelo, which is the red spawn, she does have Resolve, but there's no Execute, at least from the first turn. Maybe there is later on. I'm not 100% sure. I always kill her within 1 turn or somehow knock her below Resolve. That there's no Resolve anyways, and it's relatively straightforward to kill. For Wee Jas, the Resolve is real. I make the Resolve in red to remind myself, because this is one of my most common ways of dying, is forgetting things have Resolve. And because he's green, you have double the damage output. You do tons of damage anyways. You're going to be using Gillian to override the Time Extend debuff, so you might as well make that follow-up attack. You might as well activate. Just kill it. Don't take any chances. It's just so much safer to blow it up even though you have 2 turns. On floor 10, if you encounter Sun Quan, you must push him below 50% before his 90% damage reduction wears off in 3 turns. So you have 3 turns to deal 500 million damage with 90% damage reduction. Using Grandis and the larger board he makes for you should make it relatively straightforward. Making a VDP of Grandis' Burst and many other combos will definitely bring it down much quicker. And then after you bring it down below 50% health, I just kind of do the Seina stalling of like use the active, make 1 fire, 1 water, 1 heart combo. I'm not 100% sure if it does his big execute when you get to the very end, if he still has the damage reduction, because I oftentimes can push below the water turn 1. But if that's the, I'm not 100% sure, but I rather just play it super safe, let things recharge. And then on turn 4, Sun Quan will attack debuff you. So you use Grandis to overwrite that, and then you're happy again because now he has no damage reduction. He's very squishy. If Grandis is buff, he does die. For Ganesha, there is a real Resolve. Let's remember that because that's what sometimes happens. But Ganesha will have preemptively absorbing 2 different colors. If it's not problematic colors, easy. If it's absorbing water, you're going to suffer more because there is... If you can push them below 50%, they don't do their skill delay. So if it's absorbing water, I don't think you're really going to be able to push it down below 50%. Maybe you could, maybe you can't. But you just eat through it. If it's absorbing fire, make your water VDP, push it below 50% health, and just kind of keep there. He won't delay. Instead, if they're below 50% health after the first absorb wears off, they just do it again. And then that's it. They won't do it anymore. So you might have to suffer a little bit longer. Just bring their health back up, heal them. It doesn't matter, but you dodge the big skill delay, which could be a potentially lethal thing if they're above 50% health. For floor 11, you must have Gillian ready for Oku's Preemptive, because Oku's Preemptive is 1 turn Awoken Bind, and then change the whole board to Mortal Poisons, and then make some spinners. So basically you have a whole board of Mortal Spinners, and this is why you must have a full board changer ready. You just need to be able to overwrite it. I don't clear the Awoken Bind because I just don't. I make sure I survive, and then I basically just grind it down. There's a Resolve. Make sure you use your bursts accordingly. I oftentimes will kill things with Grandis's burst to guarantee something dies. Don't take any chances because this is still a hefty amount of health and a hefty amount of defense as well. For Liu Bei, he does take away your heart orbs and he does RCV debuff you. He converts hearts to wood orbs with their preemptive. So they do have resolve, so use Gillian. Gillian needs to be used either way on this floor. Gillian, and then because he's green, he's twice as easy to kill. He has much less health. Just use the follow-up attack and just kill it. Relatively straightforward spawn in my opinion. For floor 12, both Shariuses have resolve. And for Sharius Roots, they have resolve. And if you follow-up attack with VDP, with Grandis, guaranteed to kill. Maybe you don't need Grandis, maybe not. Shiva does have a Dragon Killer, and they are a Devil typing with that one Devil Killer latent. So you're having a lot of people with high damage. It's 75% damage reduction, so it's effectively 4 billion health. So if you can hit 1 billion per damage dealing card, you could kill it. But why take that risk? Use Grandis. It doesn't take long to charge up. Grandis, follow-up attack, dead. For Sharius, the blue Sharius, it will absorb 1 color for 99 turns. And this is where if you don't have color absorb, you will die. Or you're just not going to wait 99 turns. You quit and just restart. So if you have color absorb, wait for it to happen. If it absorbs a color that's not dangerous, well, you just VDP and follow-up attack. I like Grandising to be safe, but again, it's a little weaker. Well, actually, no, it's the same 4 billion effective health because it's water, even though without damage reduction. So yeah, Grandis, follow-up attack, win for that floor. And now we come to the final floor. So the 2 pillars you ignore. You don't target them. You only target the boss. The 2 pillars you can't kill. Like, it's just not going to happen. So there are a couple of key mechanics you need to be aware of for the boss. And the first key mechanic is when you push him below 50% for the very first time here, they will do 5 turns of Awoken Bind. They will make light orbs unmatchable. And they will then convert their color to dark, which is kind of irrelevant here, and then they'll hit for 624,000. So remember, 150,000 health was needed to survive the Red Ogre. You won't have enough health to tank this, so you must use your damage reduction. For myself, that is Shiva, and with Shiva's damage reduction, I can tank this hit, assuming I use my other match water. Of course, I'm going to be matching water and fire, but the key is I have to have Shiva's shield ready and Gremory's active ready because I need to clear the Awoken Binds afterwards, and I need to tank that large hit. And this large hit will only be done once. If for some reason you one-shot him above 50% health, he will revive. You have to kill him twice. And that means he still has not used his attack. He still has not used his below 50% attack yet. So it will happen on the next time. But let's say before the resurrection, you knock him below 50% health, you tanked it properly, and then you grind it and kill him down. He revives. He will not do that large hit once again. It will not happen anymore. So then you can just grind it down, and when it gets low enough, use Grandis to ensure the kill. There is a execute at below 10% health. Just make sure you have a way to overcome that. Like, just avoid that. Just don't let him execute you. And that's why Grandis's burst is definitely reliable for there. And when he does resurrect for the first time, it's kind of a pseudo-free turn. Only one pillar does something. It's not going to be that dangerous. The other pillar revives him. So reasonably straightforward. And after you kill him for the second time, all the pillars die. They just self-destruct suicide, and then you can, well, then you win the dungeon. Another thing to remind yourself is that Poison and Jammer Surge makes this much easier because Gills will lock the hazards, and that is a big problem. I do not like getting my hazards locked, and it is frustrating, and L doesn't really quite help your way out of that. And you do run the risk of using your Seina's active skill and not having enough water orbs and then dying because you can't tank any hit without your damage reduction. He does too much damage otherwise. So Poison Surge, I think, is more important because Poison Orbs can hurt you. Your RCV does go down quite a bit. Your healing won't necessarily keep up with the Poison Orbs, and he does hit incredibly hard. So I would prioritize Poison Surge over Jammer Surge. If you have both, this becomes a much, much easier fight. So, in conclusion, this is by far my most stable and consistent team. And the main causes of death I have are the execute when below 10% health for the boss, and forgetting things have resolve. So hence why I made them red in big words, so it reminds myself that I have to make a follow-up attack. But other than that, this team feels incredibly stable and consistent, at least for myself. I have enough damage output to kill stuff. I play reasonably conservative. If I play it more and more, I'll probably become more confident. But either way, let me know what you think about this type of video / article in the comments below. Do you think this is something meaningful that I should try and do with other teams, so you kind of gain insight into why I chose these specific cards, as well as like the dungeon floor by floor breakdown. If you think this is worthwhile and it gets enough response, I'll try and continue doing this moving forward. But other than that, hopefully all the Mantastic day. I wish you all the best luck in your own pad adventures, and happy puzzling.